Enterprise leaders are under pressure to operationalize AI faster than ever. Yet many organizations continue struggling to move beyond pilots, proof of concept, or isolated product events. The problem is rarely the algorithm. The real obstacle is data. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I am your host, Priya Dialani. Nearly 70% of organizations struggle to connect AI initiatives to measure business outcomes, largely because trusted, usable enterprise data remains difficult to operationalize. And enterprise analytics leaders are increasingly identifying data readiness as the largest constraint to scaling AI initiatives. Let's welcome Gaurav Shinh, founder and CEO of SCIKIQ, to help us understand how enterprises can build AI ready organizations through stronger data foundations. Hi, Gaurav, how are you doing?
Very good, Kushbu. Thanks for having me in here.
Great, Gaurav. It's a pleasure to have you on a podcast. And we have discussed a lot about AI developments, AI projects and models. But I think yet, as you know, more and more enterprises are jumping on the bandwagon with so much of excitement of deploying AI, many few actually reach their ultimate destination. And I think we are going to discuss more about it and understand what exactly the problem is and where most of the organizations are going wrong. But before that, let's set our foundation for today's conversation and understand more about SkyKick, its specialization, and your role towards the company.
So, yeah, Kushbu. Uh, first of all, thank you and thanks everyone for tuning in. So, I run a company by the name Psychic Data. So, what we have done, we have built a data platform which help enterprises become AI ready. So, what it means in plain English. So, there are corporates or enterprises which have not even solved for the data problem. So, first thing first, we help them integrate the data, build 360 view of the data. So data is sitting across multiple data silos, across geographies, across processes. First thing first, the most common denominator is how you can integrate the data, put a foundational layer on top of it. On the other side, there are organizations which already have solved for their data integration problem. So now how we help them become AI ready is how we can build a semantic on top of it, which provide context and meaning to the data, what is sitting within those data stores or data lakes or whatever you want to call it as. And then once that context is there, build a strong semantic or a foundation layer on top of it, where you can build conversational use cases, where you can build your micro apps, which can provide you information around Finance 360, which can provide you information around your customer profitability or customer 360 or supplier 360. So in a nutshell, what we do, we help organization become AI ready by making them data ready if they are not. If they are, put a layer of semantic or conversational on top of it. That's what Psychic bring to the table.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Gaurav. And we are really glad to understand the core problem the company is trying to solve and the meaningful change it is trying to bring in its industry. And we are also glad to understand that eventually, every successful company is built on a very clear vision, strong execution, and people who are passionate about solving real world problems, and that exactly can be witnessed at SkyKick. Uh,
Thank you.
Moving ahead, Gaurav, now when we talk about AI, AI definitely is changing enterprise expectations. Executive teams expect predictive insights, automated workflows, personalized customer experiences, and overall accelerated decision making. Many organizations mistake that and they believe, they assume that AI readiness begins with model selection or vendor platforms or major infrastructure investments. With that being said, why do so many organizations struggle with AI adoption despite having the access to powerful AI technologies?
See, good question. And you spoke about different aspect or different facets which go under the hood. So be it picking up a cloud provider, be it picking up of tools and technology. So I'll give you a little different answer. So where companies struggle, it is not about picking up the technology. See, end of the day, companies run processes. They exist to make money, right? So there are processes which companies run. They operate within the organization structure. So whatever they are trying to do, it has to conform to that organization structure. It has to make sense in the context of the business. So that's a fundamental issue. Like, when we look at AI, we start talking about technologies, models, algorithms, what goes under the hood. It is not what goes under the hood. End of the day, why we are adopting AI technology? We want to make business nimble. We want to grow faster. We want to increase our EBITDA margin. We want to collect cash faster. So what we are talking about how we can put a business context or a business lens on top of the problem what we are trying to solve. So the real struggle is companies lack enterprise-wide data architecture or enterprise-wide business architecture, which tie in all the processes what they have to do, be it on the collection side, be it on the receivable side, be it on the customer acquisition side. So I think this is one of the biggest challenge which most of the companies faces today. They're trying to put a AI layer on top of their broken processes, on top of their broken data landscape. So two things what they need to do fundamentally is first look at how their company is making money, how their company is serving customer. So go back to the fundamental, try to stitch the data together by putting data 360s or whatever you want to call it as, put a layer of data together. And then while you are bringing all of the data, don't forget your process lens, don't forget the context lens. So context is the key. This is where they struggle, this is where they miss, and they just focus on picking 7B model over 13B model or 13B model over some other model. So it is not about picking up the right model. It is you have a strategy, how you can execute that strategy using enabler through AI technologies.
That was an insightful share, Gaurav, and it definitely highlights that AI adoption isn't just about having access to the latest models or tools. It's about creating the right foundation for them to deliver that value. And again, delivering that successful AI implementation it requires a combination of quality data, well-defined business objectives, the right context, right talent, and perhaps most importantly, a strong culture that is open to change and continuous learning.
Agree, Kushbu. So you brought up a great point regarding the culture. So culture is key because you're trying to adopt, and we have failed organization who are trying to push AI agenda,
Right.
but fail to put that change process because change is not about bringing a new technology, bringing a new model or algorithm. Change is how you are changing the behavior of people who will be adopting these processes.
Right.
So culture and change, two aspect what I missed earlier, I think you touched upon it rightly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think over the past few years, Gaurav, we have seen organizations across industries invest heavily in AI initiatives. Yet again, only few are truly positioned to unlock its full potential. I think for leaders evaluating their own transformation journeys, understanding what AI readiness actually means is becoming very important. Now, we discussed, why organizations are struggling with widespread AI adoption. But on the other hand, Gaurav, what does an AI-ready organization actually look like from a data and business perspective?
See, I don't think there is a single template for AI ready organization, right? So if you look at organization, there are companies who have very centralized decision making process. Everything is structured around HQ, headquarters, and there's a command and control center which flow from the headquarters. So they follow a very central approach. On the other side, you'll see another set of organization which follow very decentralized sort of decision-making process, where each department or each function is responsible for making their own decision, they own their own P&L. So why I'm bringing this up? Because there is no single template. So depending upon whether your organization is central or decentral, the strategies might change. So let's pick up one. If you are on a central side, maybe you are looking to build a 360 view where you are trying to cut across all the silos, and you are trying to integrate the data across a process lens, which is at an enterprise wide or at an enterprise level. You want certain actioning to be done from the central authority point of view, and that needs to be cascaded to different branches or across the organization hierarchy. So in that case, the AI ready organization will look like, they will have different 360, be it HR, be it finance, be it procurement, be it supply chain, be it your operations 360, and how you are building enterprise 360, which act as a command center on top of it. And that's how your data will or data will reside beautifully in that sort of a structure. That's one construct. Construct two, when you are working with some of the defense organization where you have multiple command center, or when you are working with the organization which have very decentralized approach of decision making, where branches, offices are empowered, they own their own P&L, they can make choices with respect to customer, they can hold inventories, and they can sell, they are responsible for their P&L, top line, bottom line, both, even from a sales operation standpoint. There, you have data meshes, and that is by nature, right? So how you can cut across those data meshes, how you can start making sense out of that mesh, so that at a HQ level, some of the decision making which needs to be central from a shared services standpoint, from a cost arbitrage standpoint, you can do that while you are enabling these meshes or these silos to operate independently, autonomously, and they don't have to work within a very tight 360 views. So depends completely on how your organization is structured, how the decision-making process is, what kind of use cases are you trying to solve through AI? Is it more to do the decisioning command framework, or are you just trying to integrate your data, trying to build few 360s? So the topologies can differ. So I don't think there is a single blueprint of how the organization look like. These are some of the prescriptive, these are some of the things what I can think of on top of my head, what you can consider while planning which side of the fence you sit and which template will work better for your ongoing operations.
I agree with you, Gaurav, and I think a lot of things are changing within. I mean, as AI keeps on evolving and it's becoming more mature and sophisticated. Organizations tend to, they're very eager to invest in AI, but they tend to forget or overlook the groundwork that's required to make those investments successful. And the kind of aspects that you mentioned, those are the real differentiator. Building on that, Gaurav, now despite the growth of digital transformation initiatives and a lot of data planning that's required for enterprise companies, most organizations still struggle with data silos and inconsistent data. We have been reading everywhere that, what are the disadvantages of data silos and why organizations should opt out of it and ensure that they are working without these silos. But eventually, it still exists and many companies are still struggling with it. And again, these issues are only exacerbated by AI initiatives that require more reliable data or contextual metadata to work properly. Single source of truth initiatives that seek to build a consistent and reliable view of data for the whole enterprise better decision making is very important. So again, how important or why enterprises should prioritize integrating single source of truth. Uh, but what are certain challenges they face while implementing it?
See, you touch upon very good point. Like, with AI, lack of single source of truth has been, it comes to the limelight because you can't build a AI agent if the underlying data foundation, the underlying context is missing. So it is absolute necessity, not just a single source of truth per se from a data standpoint. You need a single source of truth or a common taxonomy or a common terminology across your enterprise. So this is where semantic, having a single layer of semantic and single layer of data put together, can help this AI agent to run a business to make it more autonomous. So this is a fundamental foundational aspect which needs to be there. Now, the question regarding what are the challenges companies face to build a single version of truth? I think the biggest challenge is how, in my 28, 29 years of experience, what I've seen, how company gather information. They gather information by collating demand from different stakeholder constituencies. So, for example, they will collect demand from finance colleagues. They will collect demand from marketing or sales. And then they collate that demand and they end up building Power BI Tableau dashboard to provide information to these stakeholders. So the demand is captured with a very myopic view of serving dashboards, serving some KPIs to these stakeholders. What lacks within the organization is what I spoke about earlier, the full enterprise business architecture, the full process architecture. Most of the time I've seen in my experience or during our engagement, most of the companies or most of the people even struggle what to stitch together. You're talking about a single version of truth. It means a lot of data across these silos need to be stitched together. So first question is, what needs to be stitched together? And part two of that equation is how we need to stitch it together. So what and how part, they are still very gray, missing within an enterprise because people have been focused on building dashboard earlier. And they were not thinking of building an information layer on top of it, which can provide or which can reduce information asymmetry across organization. And that's the reason why you need single version of truth, right? Because what you know and what I know, there's a huge gap between these two things. You are reporting revenue as 20 million, maybe I'll be reporting revenue as 120 million. Maybe that's more of an exaggeration, but that's how things will be. So how we can both talk the same language, how we can both are adding value to the same process. So how it needs to be stitched, most of the enterprises lack that piece. And then, as I said, the full-blown business architecture, how my value stream works, how my company make money, how my company pay money, how we acquire customer, how we retain customer. So that business process lens, even that is missing. So once those lenses are defined, then it become a little simpler exercise. Now you're going to physical sources, you are acquiring the data which will stitch or which will conform to this process model and which can add value both at an operational level and at a strategic level. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, it definitely does, Gaurav. And again, when we talk about achieving a single source of truth, I think it's the reality is that achieving it is often, it's not easier and it is difficult in reality. And as businesses, they adopt new applications, whether it's cloud platforms or AI-driven tools. So data is again, getting fragmented across multiple systems. So making consistency and governance and ensuring governance is a significant challenge. And without a unified, trusted foundation, organizations risk making decisions based on outdated or incomplete data, which can then eventually impact everything from their decision making around customer experience and their overall operational efficiency. Okay, moving ahead, Gaurav, of course, when we talk about data, our conversation would be incomplete if we don't talk or discuss about data governance. I mean, when you talk about AI models, in production, when these AI projects or models go into production, sometimes a lot of companies point out that, these models behave very much different in production. Models behave unpredictably. Teams debate whose data is correct, and confidence in outputs erodes just when decisions matter most. So, what starts as a modeling challenge usually turns out to be an overall data problem. And that's where, data governance becomes very much critical to AI performance. But then, how does effective data governance contribute to AI success and overall organizational agility?
Uh, Very simple. If you ask me, see, okay, let's take a step back. Why we even need governance on the data? because we want to trust the number. We want to make a decision with confidence. We want to make a decision with agility and speed, right? So how we can trust the data? I don't know lot of aspect within an enterprise. So there are a lot of people who work within a company. So there are people who are working within marketing. There are folks who are working within sales or finance or any other department. They should be the one who should be owning their data, both the freshness and the sanity, which means the quality of the data. So they should be the one. So what happened or what has changed after 2007, 2008 fiasco, CFO is now made responsible for all the numbers which goes out to the street. So he has to attest those numbers or she has to attest those numbers, what get reported to the street. Like that, we need a stewardship function where each and every department owns the number. And it is up to them to make sure the numbers are coming from an authoritative data store, which means the numbers should not flow from my desktop or my laptop because that's not an authoritative data store from enterprise standpoint. So if it's a CRM system, if it is Zoho, if it is Salesforce, whatever system or Dynamics, whatever system you're using, is that authoritative data store? Is number flowing from that? Is the quality going around the data? Are we seeing a stale data or are we seeing fresh data? So there has to be a data governance layer which needs to be put in place just to make sure there's a hygiene, there's a confidence. What we are doing, the confidence is built around that whole process. Why models which behave in your POC environment, it doesn't behave the same way in production, which was the point what you were trying to make earlier. And the reason is in POC environment, those environments are very controlled environment. We are controlling all the variables. We are dealing with known, and the model operates beautifully in that known because the context is known to us. But when it hits production, we are dealing with a lot of unknown unknowns, and the context is not fully modeled. So what it means, if you're just picking up a model, and make it run, try to answer on your question, it will give some random numbers, or it's a fairly like you're rolling a dice. So there's a probability of 6 landing up once in 5 moves, or maybe once in every move, whatever. But that's a probability, right? So how you can be certain, how you can be deterministic, because you are tying now this to a decision-making process. So this is where what I spoke about earlier. Point two, what we bring to the table, the context layer or semantic layer. You need to have a very strong semantic, which ties your taxonomy, ontologies, how the business terms operate, how the business processes stitched together. That piece need to be in place. And then finally, how you can ground your AI in data and in context of your business. That's a third piece which needs to be done right before you can start expecting deterministic answer out of the model. Otherwise, it's a garbage in, garbage out, and that's the approach what people follow. And since from a decision making, you need deterministic approach, I think this is where there has to be a very, very strong foundation. There has to be a strong foundation of data governance, accountability, stewardship in place. Otherwise, God bless us.
I agree with you, Gaurav, and eventually, everybody agrees that technology is only as effective as the data that powers is. And again, with strong data governance, it's not just about maintaining compliance or ensuring data quality. It lays the foundation for building trustworthy, scalable, and high-performing AI systems. And again, I think your response highlights that data governance is no longer just an IT function or a checkbox. It's a strategic business capability that can, become a very significant competitive advantage and can also have a direct influence towards both AI success and organizational agility.
Correct.
Okay. Moving ahead, Gaurav, now we discussed about how data is, I think it is the core enabler for all the kinds of tools and applications that probably an enterprise can adopt and ensure that they are getting the most tangible results out of it. if we talk about 2026 or even beyond, simply having a data platform will not position an enterprise to compete and grow, especially if that platform is a centralized lake that cannot adapt to, the AI era demands. As pressure is mounting to develop AI-enabled capabilities and products, organizations are learning that the data foundations they built over the last decade probably are no longer enough. And to build that core platform for the AI era, data ecosystems need to evolve into more product centric and federated environments that can supply real time data to both human and intelligent agents. So, what role do you think cloud platforms, data lakes, and modern data architecture play in building AI ready enterprises?
I'll say quickly, they play a very foundational or key role, which is how you can build a foundational layer with any cloud provider or any data platform of your choice, where there is a bit of a self-serve element, where business who understand their processes, who understand their data, or they can on a self-serve basis integrate things together. So that will be the ideal scenario in which these platforms can contribute, rather than the old traditional way of hiring many people and running EDW, enterprise data warehouse or data warehouses projects for years and years, and you don't see light on the other side of the tunnel. So what role cloud providers have to play? They have to, they built a foundational data layer on which all of the use cases, whether it is conversational, whether it is micro app, whether it is a data share, data exchange, which needs to be done, how easy those can be enabled, how enterprises can be empowered to bring data or to add data to their main value chain. So how data can fuel the end-to-end delivery or end-to-end money-making process or a profit-making process for an enterprise that gets served through these foundational layers. I'll add one more point, when you are looking at any of these platforms, just look at it, the ease of use and democratization of lakes or warehouses or whatever architecture you are building, how you can democratize it so that end of the day, business teams can draw insights, can take action, can make decisions on these foundations.
Right, Gaurav, and eventually it's about having the right data foundation. Now, cloud platforms provide the scalability and computing power needed to process those massive volumes of information, while data lakes and modern data architectures help organizations break down silos and unify data from multiple sources. So together, they create that infrastructure that allow models to have access to high quality, real time, and well governed data. So ultimately leading to more accurate insights and faster business decision making. And I think companies that invest in this foundation today are likely to be much better positioned to innovate tomorrow.
Agree.
Great. And I think, that brings us to the end of our conversation today, Gaurav. And I think, having an AI-ready data foundation, I think it helps organizations to reduce friction before scaling innovation because they create environments where data can be trusted, governance accelerates delivery instead of slowing it, architecture supports reuse and modernization aligns with measurable outcomes. And I think the opportunity for leaders is not simply adopting AI, it is about building an enterprise foundation capable of sustaining it. Thank you so much, Gaurav, for your insights today and helping us understand that a healthy data ecosystem unlocks AI for everything from modernizing the tech estate to reimagining the process and products overall. And with this, ecosystem underpinning the AI strategy, enterprises can gain the speed, insight, and productivity, which will help them develop a competitive advantage in an era which is, going to be ruled by autonomous agents and agentic AI. So thank you so much for your insights today. It was lovely
Thank you.
chatting.
Thank you, Kushbu, for having me here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gaurav. So, this is
Cheers.
for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around why data is the key to your most of the problems that you might be facing in terms of scaling your AI initiatives. You can probably go back and look into your models and your ecosystem, your projects and infrastructure, and look for whether data is actually the real obstacle for your scalability initiatives. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.